I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you ever think back to like when we were starting this process? Like how did you feel when I first introduced you to podcasts, or we really kind of like were confident about the concept of us doing one together?
I was really excited.
Yeah.
I remember the street we were walking by.
Yeah.
I remember the whole walk. We were walking in a suburban Chicago town. And I mean, like really walking along.
Yeah.
And
It was chilly.
it was good. Well, I got to tell you, are we supposed to say hello?
We can say hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome back to me and my grandpod. And I could say that I'm in a bewildering mood.
Okay.
Bewildering mood.
Yeah, explain.
We moved into this new house.
Yes.
So we added what is called a unlimited hot water heater. It's tankless. Has no tank. Over time, it's supposed to save you a lot of money because 10% of your heating bill goes to that hot water tank.
Yeah.
And there is no hot water tank. It just instantly, and it's gas. And so we had one put in. But they tell me that we have to have an electrician come and simply put in an electrical outlet that's 3 or 4 feet away from where there is an electrical outlet. So 2 electricians show up, and they were not here. I mean, not on the property, not at the house, for 33 minutes.
Yeah.
And mind you, I'm stretching the amount of time that they worked. I would guess 25 minutes max.
Yeah.
So now it's time to pay the bill.
Yeah.
So the one says to the other, how much do we need to charge them for? And the guy says, oh, we need to charge them for an hour. Plus, you know, I had a $5 switch and a $3 this and a $4 this and whatever. And he says, let me call the office and see how much you need to pay.
Yeah.
And he looks at his iPad and he says, here's the amount. $241.49. And I started laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you come up with $241.49 when you've got $10 worth of supplies and you weren't there 25 minutes? But how do you even come up with that number? And so I started laughing, and he took offense. But I couldn't help it. I mean, that is so bizarre. Okay. Kind of reminds me of an old joke that one of this well-known college dean used to tell all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ready for it?
Sure.
His mother, his wife, has to run an errand. And she says, the plumber's coming.
Yeah.
Can you just come home at lunchtime from your deanship up at the university and be here for the plumber?
Yeah.
So he says, sure. And he shows up. And the plumber comes in. And he runs downstairs. And he's not there 5 minutes. He comes back up and he says it's all fixed. And he gives him a bill for $300.
Yep.
And then he says, and the dean says to him, $300 for 5 minutes work. He says, I'm a dean and I don't get paid that kind of money.
Yeah.
And you know what the plumber says? The plumber says, yeah, when I was a dean, I didn't get paid that much either.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. You can cut all of this if it's so bad. I mean,
It's not that it's bad.
it's just go, wow, does that happen to all of us? maybe that's one of those things about age. I don't want to get into, that we used to cost $3.95 or,
Yeah,
gosh.
you don't really realize the inflation of everything until you do something like this where you have to interact with all those people.
Yeah.
I'm saying this like nonchalantly, and I feel like I can't tell if I should be more worried about it or not, but I was explaining this to a friend yesterday. I feel like I was in a situation where I could have been murdered yesterday.
Whoa.
So like that's the initial reaction. And I might say this and you might be like, Tilly, that's not a big deal at all. I'm at the gas station and I'm pumping my gas.
Yeah.
And like the thing clicks, I go to take it out and put it back in the gas pump. And I hear behind my shoulder, I hear, "Excuse me, miss." And I turn around to like see someone's obviously talking to me. And the gentleman, he was an older dude. He had a white beard, and
Yeah.
he was nice. I mean, he was a good 5 steps away. It's not like he was right in front of me. He said, "Do you have any change by chance for me to get some gas in my car? I'm so sorry to ask you." And I thought for a second, and I was like, maybe I should just help the person out. And so I said, "Give me 1 second to check to see if I have any." And I pulled out $1.75 in quarters that I had in my little change cup holder.
Yeah.
And I handed him the money and he walked away, and I got in my car and double checked that my like gas cap thing was closed. And I'm driving down the road and I'm thinking, I didn't close my gas cap myself. And then I'm worried that like there could be a tracker in there. He could have put something in my like gas tank, and like I'm worried my car is gonna explode at any second. And so the next time I stopped, I grabbed food. I opened it up and like looked and made sure there wasn't a tracker or anything in there. And he did seem kind of old, so I was like, chances are he's probably not trying to commit a crime, but you never know. And so my friends laughed at me. They were like, honestly, potential for murder, but like probably not the highest chance with an old dude asking you for change at a gas station.
Yeah.
So, but it was kind of worrisome to think that like I was just trying to be a good person, and then I had to stress about all these other things because we live in a world where people do things like that, and you have to be worried about stuff that goes wrong.
Yeah.
So that's my I almost got murdered yesterday story.
Well, why are we laughing?
Because it's ironic, because it shouldn't have to be like that. You should be able to help somebody out without being worried that there's ill intent.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
it's just such a double-edged sword. I think I guess part of it's like I like giving back, and I feel like since the move I've been so busy that I haven't been able to really find spaces or communities. I do help a lot of people, I feel like, but not as much as I would like to be. And I feel like I was doing that a lot more in the positions that I was in when I was at school or when I was in programs that actively sought to do that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when in your life did you feel like you really reached a point where you like valued the idea of giving back, whether it's your time or your energy or being able to give money to things? Do you feel like as a kid you were really doing that? Like, did your parents instill that in you?
Yes, my parents did.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad worked for a company and then created his own company with my mom that sold products made by the blind, blind people. And there were industries for the blind back then after World War II in the late 40s and 50s and into the 60s. And just everything from ironing board covers to brushes and mops and brooms and rugs and all kinds of products. They must have had 150 different kinds of products, from doormats to household products. And it was, and they marketed these almost door to door in some instances and over the telephone. And I met a lot of these people, well, the Industries for the Blind, they had workshops in every state almost, but I was always meeting people that needed help. And yeah, it was. In fact, I think I was certain when I was in high school, if somebody asked me, what do you think about doing? I always said I'd like to make a significant difference in the lives of people.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it came from my folks.
Yeah.
I mean, it certainly didn't come from my religious experiences, of which were slight and far between.
Yeah.
But that's how my folks were, always helping people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful that you feel that's important. And it's an amazing thing in the world. Americans give, in dollars, $3 billion a day to charity.
That's wild.
And we're not talking about giving them to church-related
Yeah.
situations, to churches. I'm talking about $3 billion a day.
A day or a year?
A day.
Interesting.
Americans give to charities $3 billion a day.
Yeah.
Nothing like that exists in the world. Nothing. It's so far-fetched if you go to United Kingdom or a lot of their charities are supported by the government
Yeah.
rather than individuals. Anyway, I think it's part of my life, and I think it's kind of reflected in a lot of businesses today. They have charitable activities. You could see it on our television set.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see it even in sportscasters, and it's part of our culture to help others. And yeah, you don't think like, is this person going to club me or?
I also think it's a girl thing. Like as a man, you probably aren't concerned as often as girls are about your physical safety. Just walking out the door, having to constantly look behind my shoulder, or driving down the road at night, like seeing if a car is following me. I probably at least once a month have to like take an extra turn to double check that somebody's not following me in my car.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah.
My wife carries spray around with her to protect herself if she's in an awkward situation.
Yeah, in Milwaukee, we had like events for school where we'd make keychains that had safety items on them, and we'd be trained by like the police officers and the public safety people on how to protect ourselves. They ran self-defense events. It's crazy to...
Well, it's kind of like yesterday I was out in front of our house, and a woman approached me. And I hate to say she was an old lady.
Yeah.
Because I don't know age.
Well, you can tell generally if someone's younger or older.
It's tough.
Okay.
It's tough. Okay.
Do I look like I'm 70 years old?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. I got your point.
That's what
But
I'm
I
saying.
want you to know I looked up to yesterday, maybe the day before.
Yeah.
How many people in America are in my age group?
In the 80s.
How many people are over 80?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
13.7 million
Just in America?
in America.
That's a good handful of people.
It is, but there's 350 million people in this country.
Yeah.
So that means that less than 5% of the people in America are 80 and over. That's getting smaller. Well, maybe it's growing because more
baby
people
boomers.
are living longer. But I kind of got the idea that I ought to start looking at this because some of my friends are saying that I ought to be more upfront about reaching out to people our age, my age, and tell them what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That I'm doing this podcast.
Yeah.
You know, and they tell me, I watch every one of your podcasts, and they're just wonderful.
Yeah.
And there's no pattern to it.
Nope.
Some like the New Year's one we did, and some like others.
Yeah.
And, you know, like we all do have our...
Favorites. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I thought, okay, I better look into this. There's zillions of senior organizations in this country.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe what I need to do is just sit down, write an email, and send them a note and say, hey,
Yeah.
you know, maybe some of the old timers would like to see Tilly and me chat about meaningless stuff.
I think it's interesting, and I think it's funny because kids my age consume things in such smaller bits. Like, it's really crazy to think about how short our attention spans are. There's a kind of a concept going around that if something was important and you played like an entertaining video next to it of something that was very quick for us to keep our minds entertained, that we'd know more. So like I feel like they're jokes, but I wonder if it's real. I've seen videos of college professors that are teaching, and they'll have like their lecture presentation right next to like a video of somebody playing a video game so that the kids pay attention. And it's crazy to think that like, I don't know if people in older generations, I mean, everyone says we're addicted to our phones, which is kind of valid in a lot of points.
Yeah.
Like, it sends a lot of us into like a genuine form of like medical anxiety if we're not aware of where our phone is or if something happens. And some people are way better at disconnecting from their phones. It's not like it's every single kid in my generation, but on a general stance, if I didn't have my phone for more than like a day, I'd be a little worried because usually I'm so used to talking to people. And I think a lot of it's because everyone lives in different places. If I was with everyone that I needed to talk to every day, I wouldn't be worried. I could throw my phone out the window. But like I talk to my sister, or I talk to my mom, or talk to my friends, and it's so hard. If I don't have my phone, I'm always worried that like something's going to go wrong and someone's going to need me and I'm not there to help them with whatever they need. But the attention span, I find myself watching videos, and now I catch myself doing it with songs. A song will be like 2/3 of the way done, and I'm like, I'm bored of this song, next song. And I'm like,
yes.
Is this an issue?
Yeah.
Like, should I be worried about how short our attention spans are? And so I wonder if as people are watching these more on like Instagram and TikTok or like YouTube shorts, if we'll have different rates of like kids my age are only going to watch it in 60-second sections.
Okay.
Or would they watch it if I split the whole thing up in 60-second sections? Maybe I'll test it out one day.
Okay.
I don't know. You guys let me know if that would be interesting. But then you're right. Like people your age, I think, do have the attention span to be able to sit and watch it for 45 minutes or an hour.
Yeah.
And enjoy it. But we've had people comment. They're like, this is the most wholesome thing I've seen on the internet. Or like, this came on my For You page and this is so cool. Like,
we're wholesome.
I would call us wholesome. Out of all the content on the internet, there's a lot of stuff that's not really great to watch.
Oh.
I feel like it's just us hanging out.
Yeah. Well,
kinda cool.
I think I think it's a new year,
Yep.
and I'm thinking about Gladys and I are talking about what are we going to do this year that's really, really special.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool because after many years of her being a nurse, she's going to retire this year.
Yeah.
So people tell me that, you know, the big changes in your life that really impact you, create stress or tension, is birth of a baby, marriage,
Yep.
divorce,
Yep. Moving houses.
death, getting new jobs. Think of all of those things, retiring.
Yep.
And so,
And you're doing 3 in 1 year.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, in a way, maybe you and I save some of what's going on in our lives just for the podcast.
Like not tell each other outside of podcasts?
Not that we purposely do it,
Yeah.
but it just seems so easy to flow.
I feel like sometimes, like, especially because now our schedules are almost opposites. Like, I'm doing a lot of stuff in the evenings, and you are a morning person, which
Yeah.
comes with your age. And
Wait. Not everybody that's 80 gets up at 6 in the morning.
absolutely. But I would say that the older you get, the more apt you are to be more of a morning person. Not necessarily 6 a.m., but more of an 8 a.m. Like, I feel like more. But that, like, I would say that starts at like 40, 50, 60 years old. Like, it's not a senior thing. It's just like you stop being an awake until, like, I didn't go to sleep until after 2 a.m. last night.
Yeah.
Like that, I don't think most people who are over 50 are staying awake past 2 a.m.
I think you're right, although I do a lot of reading
Yeah.
in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah, that's valid.
Yeah, I do.
I listened to audiobooks last year. I finished 2 or 3 maybe, which is more technically than I've read in a very long time.
Uh-huh.
And I had some really good mentors when I was finishing school. One of them gave me a book that I started really reading, and it was really interesting because it wasn't any sort of like entertaining novel. It was just about like school and the education system, and I felt really intrigued to try and better the space I was in. So it was a really good book for me to read at the time. And then I read 2, I guess they're autobiographies, about people's lives. One was somebody in politics, and one was somebody who's actually in the social media space. And both of them I thought were really interesting. And now that I do more driving to go see my parents, I realized it's just nice to toss on an audiobook.
Yeah.
So I kind of hope that this year I do some more reading and push myself to kind of continue to find a balance of stuff that's not reading only things that are like business, like self-improvement, but also still reading stuff that's entertaining and engaging, and doing kind of other things, like finding other stories that are gonna continue to push my knowledge base. Because it's weird not being in school and still finding ways you want to learn stuff. Because I wasn't really a book kid growing up, because I really struggle with reading. And so it just makes it more frustrating sometimes to find love and passion in that type of information consumption. But I think that it's nice now that we have the technology for something like Audible or other things,
Yeah.
to be able to find other ways to read things or consume that stuff. I really love when an author also reads the book, because I feel like it's just so much more powerful. Like I'm listening to their words through them.
Yeah.
But that's my note on reading.
I think the older I get, the more I appreciate beauty.
Continue with that sentence.
I can ride my bike down the street,
Yeah.
and if I see a flower, that's
take a picture
especially,
of it.
I take a picture of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't do that 40, 50 years ago. Well, maybe we didn't have digital phones.
Yeah, I was going to say that could play. Maybe when you were a kid,
but
you would have taken more
even,
photos.
Even my appreciation of Disney,
Yeah.
of
You've always been a Disney fan, but I think
but
the more time you have on your
it's
hands.
spreading to their National Geographic.
Oh.
And they're I mean, years ago, they bored me to tears. You know, I'd rather watch the mouse than some elephant. You know, but the older I get, the more I want to see the elephant and the giraffe and the beauty of nature. And, you know, now, I don't, you know, are folks your age concerned about the climate and what's going on?
I think more than any other generation, we're concerned about it.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you do?
I mean, now we're getting into the politics issue of, I think there are some good politicians, but the way that our political system is set up is it's almost meant to tear its own self apart.
I think, you know, some other time, it'd be interesting to talk more about, you know, together we really have talked often about avoiding politics.
Mm-hmm. On the podcast.
On the podcast.
Because it's controversial.
But I don't mind controversial.
I think
and
when I talk about like avoiding politics, it's in the sense that I don't want anybody watching us to feel like because of their political views that they don't feel like this is something that they enjoy. And I mean, I'm torn on it because I have certain beliefs and feel like I wouldn't want to be associated or supported by people who disagree with some of the major things that I stand on. But at the same time, the purpose of doing this isn't to be a political beacon or to sway people to vote a certain way or to believe certain things. I think I believe more than anything that people should go out and look at data and information and really try and understand themselves what's going on. We shouldn't all kind of just be the blind leading the blind and tell each other what to believe. Mm-hmm. We should all kind of find why we believe things, where we want to trust sources, and not be afraid to go fact check the things that we hear. Because most of us, most kids in my generation or people probably younger than 30 are getting most of their political news, anything from the internet. Yeah. And a lot of us choose not to go fact check because that takes extra work if we don't feel like it. And so I mean, the purpose of this podcast is for us to kind of spend this time together, and I think it's interesting for us to each share our perspectives with our generation gap, but I don't want it to feel like we're ostracizing groups of people, because the purpose of this isn't to tell people what we believe. It's about us kind of sharing this kind of storytelling and conversation space, and hopefully it brings joy and entertainment to other people.
Yeah. Well, I think it's difficult when we talk about wanting to maintain the environment and the beauty that's out there. Yeah. And that's really important to me.
It is.
That is political. It's political. Yeah.
But I back to the first question you asked, I think so many people in my generation are very aware, if not hyper aware, of our impacts on the environment, the way what cars we choose to drive. And a lot of it is hard because we're limited financially. We don't have the options to make the choices that are better for the environment because of the area that we're in our lives. But if we had the choice of what car we would drive, where we would live, a lot of us believe that there should be more walkable cities, things where you don't need to use a car to get everywhere. A lot of us are aware of how frustrating the public transportation is in America. It makes it really hard to be able to live a healthier, greener life when you can't get places, when you can't travel, when you can't visit things without spending a lot of money, without doing a lot that harms the environment. A lot of us choose to eat differently. I mean, we've seen fads of different diets, of veganism. A lot of people are spreading the awareness around how unhealthy practices in the farming industry are to get us the food that we eat at the grocery store. And it's really frustrating that there's nothing we can do about it, and that it's not something that seems very important to the politicians that we can vote into office or that have been chosen to be in office. So you're right. It's really hard to separate politics from stuff like that. But I definitely think kids my age, I mean, you see higher rates, I feel like, of us talking about it even.
Yeah.
I don't know how often my parents or, I mean, were you guys talking about how to be more environmentally
Well,
sound
I
when you
think-
were 20 years old?
No, when I was 20 years old, we had Vietnam. We had war. We were in chaos in lots of ways in this country.
Yeah.
You know, especially in the big cities. You know, I was lucky enough to have a father-in-law. When you asked him what's the greatest invention you saw in your lifetime from 1910 until the early 2000s, and he said the airplane, the ability to be able to cross this country in 5 hours. I don't know what the greatest invention of your generation is going to be.
Artificial intelligence.
I don't know.
I mean, we're going to continue to see so much more change.
I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be. But I think you and I try to bring in people, the people that we interview, that are active and find joy in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's switch it up and talk about something else.
Yeah, that was pretty serious stuff.
Yes, it was.
Well,
Back to questions people asked
yeah.
before we even started this podcast. We're in episode 12. 3 months of podcast. Did you know that?
Yeah. How we doing? Anybody listening to us?
There's people out there
Yeah.
somewhere. They're there listening and watching. It's
Good.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
One of the questions was, what's a tradition that you look forward to every year?
Wow. You're talking about my tradition?
Yeah.
I like, I kind of like to do something special every 3 months.
Okay.
Go somewhere.
You like traveling.
Yeah. I like to travel. Yeah.
Was there a tradition growing up, something you did with your family every year?
Oh gosh, no. You know, our tradition was going to the movies 3 times a week,
Okay.
double features. You know, I probably have said that before. You know, buying popcorn for a nickel and movies were less than a dime.
Yeah.
You know, that sounds really weird. I wonder if you took the average cost of, like, you know, but that's all we had were movies.
Yeah.
TV was just beginning. And so was huge for us. Yeah.
That's crazy to think about the evolution of that
Yeah.
into what we have now with streaming services.
Yeah.
I saw a clip of a podcast where a dad and his daughter were talking about how, like, he was talking to her about, like, what do you think TV was like before streaming services? And she was like, well, you could record stuff. And he was like, there was a series of time before, like, DVRs were a thing where you knew you had to be watching the TV at 8 p.m. on Tuesday night to watch what you wanted to watch.
That's right.
And you couldn't just watch the next thing. You'd have to wait a whole week. And she was like, I'd wait till it was all out and, like, watch it all together. He was like, but you can't go back. Like, you have to watch it live.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't exist. No one my age has anything like that, where we don't just have it at our fingertips.
Yeah.
Or money couldn't buy it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, it is.
In a good way and a bad way.
Well, I think I believe that your generation will really have more opportunity to have an impact on our future than ever before.
Yeah, I think so.
I really do.
I mean, with technology, there's access to more information, capabilities to do way more.
Yeah. It's overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
Like, to have all those choices is just, and I believe in choice. I think we should have more options.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good note.
I was going to tell you about my tradition.
Oh, good. Tell me about your tradition.
Every year, you've been with us once or twice, we attend the Wisconsin State Fair.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom went from the time she was a little girl, and then when my dad and her got married, he was able to join. And I mean, before they got married, they went together. But from the time, I don't know if I ever missed a year from the time I was born. I've gone every year, and it's just a really cool thing because I haven't been to any other state fairs, but I've been told it's one of the best. And as a cheese curd connoisseur in Wisconsin, I would say that the cheese curds, I think it's Ben and Harry's cheese curds or something. It's the cheese curds at the Mouse cheese curd stand are by far my favorite, and I eat a bucket of those things every year. And you kind of just eat your way through the fair, and there's such a variety of foods.
Yeah.
Anything you want that's deep fried, you can find it. Oreos, butter, burgers, quesadillas. And now they do like a food competition.
Yeah.
It's called the Sporky. So there's a Sporky Award. So when you get there, like they'll give you the list of like all the Sporky contenders and then the Sporky winners. They'll do like a top 5. And this year they did like drinks too. So there were the top 3 drinks or something. And so you can go around and try those. But they'll do like a burger on a glazed donut instead of like a regular bun. They'll do like cheese curds in a quesadilla or pickle waffles or all these weird things that you would never think to try if you were anywhere else outside of that. But it's also really nice to see they have beautiful exhibits of flowers and quilts and photos and art from kids all across the state. They send in their art for art competitions, which are always really fun to see. And when I was little, they would have a smile competition. There was like a dentist or a group of dentists that sponsored the smile competition every year. And you'd enter, and if you won, you got a goodie bag that had a toothbrush and other stuff in it and some sort of prize. But it was always so entertaining. And they have a show choir group, the kids from Wisconsin, who perform every year. They have like bodybuilder competitions that are there. So we'd be riding like the Sky Glider, and you look down and there's just a bunch of dudes or girls like flexing because they're in the middle of a bodybuilding competition. It's quite an eclectic space. There's pig racing, which is fun to watch. And then they have big concerts and a whole kind of theme park too. And we rarely ever went and rode the rides because there's just so much to do. And we go twice because there's too much. And when I was younger, we had a family corn roast with my mom's side of the family. So we'd do state fair, corn roast, state fair. So it was a whole Wisconsin weekend. And I won the corn eating competition a few times.
Oh.
I was a corn.
How many did you eat?
I think one year I had 18 cups of corn.
Oh, my God.
In one evening.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite the experience. It was entertaining. It's a whole different culture when you see things. When I tell people who live in other states all the things at the state fair, they're like, that sounds like it's out of a movie or something. Like it's absolutely wild for them to imagine. But I think it's always really entertaining to do stuff like that. And it's kind of just a fun day to look forward to, everyone together, and it's enjoyable usually, as long as the weather's pretty good.
That's great.
So that's a fun tradition. I think there's always traditions around like holidays or birthdays, things like that. But it's also exciting now that we moved to start new traditions. We'll find new things to do every year that are kind of fun and special for everyone. And making new traditions with friends and stuff like that. It's been exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that.
Of course. I'll say thank you to everyone who listened to this very chaotic episode. I feel like it was kind of everywhere.
Yeah, that's okay. We can be chaotic from time to time.
It was a fun one. Next week's episode 13. 13's a special number.
Ooh.
The people will have to be surprised by what we're going to bring for episode 13. It's another fun guest. And I'll say 13's a special number for some people out there. So if you know, you know. But you'll have to wait till next week to see.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.